Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and I want to wish everybody a happy new year. Today is a brand new day, a brand new year, and a brand new decade. And with that, I want to focus on a precedent that we are setting for that decade coming out of the state of California here in the United States. The CCPA just got enabled and just got enacted, and basically it is live now. And so Californians are leading the way in data privacy for the United States. Now, here's what's going on. This law kicked in today, January 1st, and it is the California Consumer Privacy Act. This gives residents of California the right to learn what data companies collect about them. It also lets Californians ask companies to delete their data and to not sell it. Now, this is very similar to what the European Union did in March of 2018 with the GDPR. And so I want to talk about the 5 critical questions that you need to know and understand about this law, because quite frankly, this law, I think, is going to change data privacy in the United States for good. So the first question that people ask is, what's the personal data that this actually covers? Now, the CCPA covers stuff that you would normally expect, like your name, your username, your password, phone numbers, physical address, etc. It also includes information used by companies to track your online behavior, such as IP addresses, that's the address your device gets, and also specific device identifiers. The law also covers information that can be used to characterize you, like race, religion, marital status, sexual orientation, and status as a member of the military or a veteran. It also covers biometric information like fingerprints or facial recognition data, your browsing history, and location information. Now, data found in public, such as public government documents, is excluded though, so companies can still learn if you're married, for example. However, they have to collect that data directly from government records, not from other sources, such as your social media accounts. So that is the core of what they are collecting. Now, the next question that inevitably people are going to ask is, can I tell the Facebooks and Googles of the world to get rid of my data now? The short answer is yes, you can tell them to get rid of your data now. In fact, some of the major tech companies like Facebook and Google already let you delete some of that data from their systems. These tools might not be exactly what you expect though. So for example, Facebook has begun rolling out a new feature that lets users disconnect the data that it's collected from your web browsing, but it doesn't actually fully delete it. Instead, it disassociates your name and profile basically from the data with other people, allowing it to monitor broader trends. So in other words, they can basically make your data anonymous and then use it to browse trends. Now, the CCPA still allows companies to use anonymous data, as I just mentioned, but this law actually sets a high bar for separating your identity from that information, and so hopefully that will be a thing. The other thing that I'd like to comment on is that you actually kind of have to take that at faith that they are adhering to that in some way, shape, or form. And the reason why I say that is we have caught both of them, though specifically Facebook, basically not having good data privacy policies, practices, and standards, even though they're adhering to laws here and elsewhere. So the next question people are going to ask is, can I still use these free services if I ask them not to collect the data? And the answer to that is yes, you can. The new law says companies cannot turn away users if they opt out of the sale of their data. However, the companies can give you a stripped down version of their offerings if you go this route. In other words, let's say you're on Facebook, you might actually lose features if you say, don't give me, or I don't want to sell my information to you, or I'm opting out of this, as opposed to a person that says, yeah, sell away, and they're going to get all of the options. The point is to prevent companies from charging all users who don't want their data sold. This would leave users who can't afford a subscription in the lurch, forcing them to allow the sale of their data so they can use services we've all come to rely on and communicate and access information, all of that. So basically, they cannot remove you from communication platforms, even though they can strip them down. You still get the basic functionality. If companies want to charge users to who opt out of their data, they are allowed to do that, but they have to disclose how much basically the user's data is worth to them. We know by all studies that Facebook's data is worth about $12 or so every individual. So I'm worth $12 to Facebook, as you are, and anybody else that is using that service. The next question then would be, what happens if the companies don't follow the laws? Now, according to the CCPA, businesses can be fined $2,500 per violation or $7,500 if the violation is found to be intentional, meaning they knew you opted out and they intentionally did not remove your data. That could mean seriously massive fines when we are talking about aggregate group of Californians in this case, ideally eventually citizens of the United States. And California is the most populous state in the union, with Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, many major urban areas that continue to grow and expand. And so that could get very pricey for the Facebooks and Googles of the world. Now, critics are saying that companies would be able to get away with breaking the law because the Attorney General doesn't have the resources to catch every violation. That's true. California is a massive state. Now, the Attorney General for California, Xavier Becerra, has said publicly that his office isn't equipped to fully enforce this law yet, and he is pushing for the passage of an amendment that, he pushed for the passage of an amendment which failed to pass that would have let users sue the companies directly. And so they have to go through the Attorney General, is basically what this is saying. The law gives Californians the right to sue businesses in one specific instance, though, if their personal information is lost in a data breach caused by the company's negligence. So nobody's watching the barn, hackers get in and steal the data. There you go. Legal observers expect this to increase class action lawsuits against companies after they're hit by hackers. You know, I do a breaches of the week every Sunday, and so every Sunday there are millions and millions of records out there. This might turn up these class action lawsuits to 11, which may actually apply pressure to these privately owned businesses or those that are publicly traded to really start adhering to better data security laws to mitigate the possibility of a whole bunch of people suing. So I think that's actually a benefit to what the CCPA is. Now, if you're asking the question, I don't live in California, will this law affect me? No doubt. I don't think there's any doubt of that as well. The CCPA requires that for-profit businesses describe in their privacy policies and categories the data that they collect about these users. And odds are, because we have 50 different states in the United States, these companies are going to be likely to extend some of these rights to basically everybody in the USA. That way, they won't have to basically figure out what laws to adhere to or apply to. They might just blanketly say, okay, we're going to give everybody this right, even if you're sitting in New York on the other side of the country, or Alaska if you're up north. So they don't want to risk, those lawsuits from other states, because already 9 other states are considering similar laws. Maine and Nevada have already passed much narrower versions of this privacy legislation, which basically tells me or makes me want to discuss the ramifications of a single state like California creating a law like this. Now, California has always been typically on the forefront of more progressive laws when it comes to this, but when we are looking at this has been freaking out Silicon Valley. They have sent an army of lobbyists to Washington, D.C. to try to prevent the CCPA from coming online, which here we are, January 1st, 2020, because what they want is a federal law, probably ideally stripped down, that gives them a lot more control. But imagine if you are a Facebook of the world, the difficulty you would have adhering to 50 different states in the United States, each one having, let's say, many of the generic same opt-out options, but with their own unique twists in some way, shape, or form. That would be very difficult to run a business. I can understand it from that point, but California is pushing something through that the European Union pushed through last year that the United States desperately needs. So I hope that in 2020, basically my prediction of this really getting ramped up and coming to fruition at the federal level is going to happen, or at least get the ball rolling on that. We need these kinds of things, and I think it very much aligns with the constitutional rights, rights against self-incrimination, rights against privacy, rights for privacy, all that kind of stuff. This is keeping with this. This is just making sure that our laws are keeping up with our technology, or at least starting to keep up with the technology from a decade ago. So I think that's very important. That is everything basically you need to know about the CCPA and how it affects you as a Californian, but also you as a United States citizen. And hopefully other countries are going to look at this model, whether it's the European Union's GDPR or the CCPA of California, because I think their economy alone is something like in the top 10 economies of the world. They're huge in terms of this. So it's it's going to be very fascinating with this. Now, much of what I've got in this layout here, I have to give credit to CNET for. They laid it out in an excellent article, around Christmas time or so a few days ago. And so I'd like to thank them for laying this out. It made my job a lot easier. So CNET, keep up the great work. And that is your very first news of 2020. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more privacy coming to a state and hopefully a country near you. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.